How you doing? I'm Michael Yavnieli. I am the producer and director of All in the Timing, 6 one-act plays plus mere mortals at the Zephyr Theatre on Melrose Avenue. If you want to learn more about this play that we're putting on, have a listen to this conversation. When did I fall in love with theater, and why did I have to be part of the theater world? Well, wow. I think if you want to say love, like fall in love with the theater, it happened very, 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 very young. My parents were both performers. They were musicians, classical musicians. My father was a violinist and a trombonist. My mom sang opera. Legend has it that I was in an opera when I was in the womb. I was Susanna in The Marriage of Figaro. I was very good, apparently. But I guess my love of the theater started really young. I auditioned for a production of Peter Pan at a small theater in Miami where I grew up. I grew up in Miami, and I got the part of Peter Pan, and it was like this whole idea of like, oh my God, I can fly. It's going to be great. Because at the time, giving my age away slightly, not that I don't look like I'm this age, but there was the whole thing of like Sandy Duncan, Peter Pan, with like the flying on wires and all that stuff. And I thought that was great. I was like, well, I want to fly. That'd be great. So if I'm Peter Pan, maybe I'll get to fly too. And the show never went up, but it was kind of getting bitten by the bug at that point. I just got to go to rehearsal and see things and how it happened. And, I guess I was kind of hooked at that point. I can't have been any more than 8 years old at that point, probably. But I know that by the time I was about 12, when I was in 7th grade, I was already in magnet programs for acting, and I kind of had decided that's what I wanted to do. You move to LA and you do a lot of TV, you do a lot of film, you do all this, that. And I like doing that, and acting is acting, and it's great, and directing is directing, it's great. But there's something about theater that just can't be duplicated. The fact that you're in the same room with people, that they're breathing the same air as you, and that you've got to convince them that something imaginary is going on, and they're with you, and you're telling them a story, and they're right there with you, and they're believing it. That's magical to me, and that to me is fascinating. And that's something you really can't ever get enough of. I don't think I'll ever grow out of that. When did I fall in love with acting, and when did it go from interest to obsession? I would say that the real kind of, I started to get really to love it and be in love with it when I was in about 7th grade, 7th, 8th grade, something like that. Was in a production of Oliver, the musical Oliver, at my junior high school in Miami, Florida, and my teachers, Rick Adams and Michael Deutsch, both extremely influential people in my life. Rick Adams was in the show with us, in Oliver with us, and it was just a special sort of a thing for all of us that were, we 12, 13 years old. I got to play Bill Sykes, like the great Oliver Reed. And I watched Oliver Reed, do that, the movie from the 60s. I just wanted to be that, he was so magnetic and so interesting and just, somebody who really just commanded your attention. You couple that with the fact that I saw the movie right around the same time was when I saw 2 movies that were really important to me. One was the movie Amadeus, the Milos Forman movie with Tom Hulce and F. Murray Abraham. And then the other was Raising Arizona, which is early Coen brothers with Nicolas Cage and Holly Hunter. And I had a book about New York actors at that point, and in the book was John Malkovich, and there was a section about Tom Hulce and F. Murray Abraham and the people in Amadeus, and I just started to read about what an actor's life in the theater was like, And to me, with my with the fact that I loved doing working in the theater already, I loved the work. It doesn't feel like work; it feels like play. I just decided, I was like, this is something I think I want to do. This is something I want to get obsessed with. I want to be as good as people like John Malkovich, who I can look at in Dangerous Liaisons and is one person, and then you watch in True West and is something else. It's like, you know what I mean? It just fascinated me, the whole idea of trying to inhabit someone else's skin. I guess that was around the time, yeah, from between 12, 13, 14. It just went from something I loved to do to something that I was really like, yeah, okay, I want to do this. This is what I want to. This is what I want to spend my life doing. The question being, why do I love directing? What do I love directing about it? What do I love about directing? When did I get interested in directing? And what is unique about directing theater? I got interested in directing kind of as a corollary of study. I've studied acting in one way or another pretty much constantly from about the time we were talking about, from about age 12, 13, something like that. I've been a student of acting and, constantly striving, working to get better and being in classes, and, had a lot of the opportunity to work with a lot of really masterful teachers. The people that I mentioned who were in middle school, onto, some people that I knew in high school. I went to a magnet high school with, some very, very influential teachers. Then I went on to Florida State University, got to study with people like George Judy, Michael Ritchie, Gene Lixon, John Dagan, may rest in peace, taught me a love of the theater and sort of a curiosity, intellectual curiosity about the history of theater and the why and the process and everything. Then when I came here to LA, I got hooked up with Milton Casellas at Beverly Hills Playhouse, and I studied there as a student for a lot of years. I was there for almost a quarter century, from 1996 when I moved here all the way up to the shutdown for COVID. I was there, and the last few years I finally began teaching there. Because it's a natural progression. You're in class that long, you should hopefully know something about the technique by that point, and have an ability to communicate it to others. And I guess that directing sort of comes out of it's a corollary to teaching in a way, because when you're teaching acting, the first thing you got to do if you're taking notes on a scene study is, like, you think to yourself, okay, well, it's not only about process, it's about result. Now, from teaching standpoint, you're talking about process. Okay, well, how do I make these choices, and what are choices? How do I make them? How do I use this to string these choices together and tell a story? With directing, it's sort of just kicking that over and taking, okay, well, now this is going to be the process that we use. Well, what's the result that we want to engender? What are the specific series of buttons that we want to push in the audience to develop this sort of, response, really? And what you find in your study of acting is that most of us are, well, all of us really, I mean, we're one species, human beings, we're 99% the same. So the switches that we flip to move ourselves as actors, the switches that we flip and the buttons that we push, the pathways we go down, most of the time are universal. There's a variation here and a variation there, and something that everyone has their own experience and sort of colors what they think and how they feel and what they do and the way that they perceive things. But in order to create a specific emotional response in ourselves, we have to press a series of buttons. I figured out, well, that's kind of similar for most people. So then once you think about, well, what is directing but storytelling to send a message, or to make the Greeks called it catharsis, really, in drama. In Greek drama, it's about the emotional catharsis that leaves a person changed, right? Well, that's what directing is. And it's just sort of a small step from teaching over to directing. It's like, not only how would I, what is the process of making these choices, but okay, now what series of choices are we going to make a specific statement? And I realized two things really at the same time, sort of from teaching. Number one, that I was able to communicate process hope better than I thought that I could. Because that's your fear always as a teacher. You're sitting there, someone's looking at you for an answer, and you're like, oh, I don't know. Well, I don't have the answer. I don't know. I'm going to tell you something, but it might not be the right answer. The beautiful thing about directing is, yeah, I'm going to tell you something, but it might not be the right answer, but it's an answer, and there is no right answer. So it's like, okay, well, let's make a path here that we're going to walk down that's like exploring something that's, it's an exploration. And what I found about it is I found it freeing, in the sense that as an actor, I was always watching myself like this, like here, you're always here, like, and I'm sitting here and well, you screwed that up. Well, that wasn't good. Well, this, well, that, have this voice, right? As a director, for whatever reason, I don't have that. As a director, it's like, well, let's try this. Oh, no, that's wrong. Let's go back. Let's do something else. No, I don't like that. Let's do something else. Let's refine this and refine this. There's no neuroses for me, which I find refreshing. It's just a really, really pure creative outlet for me. And that, for me, allows me to explore more things about people and what makes us tick. And I find that fascinating. I like problems. I like puzzles. I like those kinds of things. I like strategies and that sort of stuff. So any puzzle or any box that I can continue to unpack and never get to the bottom of, I'm very interested in. And that's human beings. So why is theater a unique experience as opposed to TV or film or other mediums of entertainment for audience and actors? I think the answer is the same. I think it's because you're breathing the same air. I think it's because I'm in the room with you and you're in the room with me. And because we're in the same room, it's not as easy for me to lie to you. I can't lie to you. I'm going to have to convince you of this. And we are all going on the journey at the same time together. And we don't get to go back. We don't get to go back and do something right. Whatever happens, happens. The moment happens, it's gone. So that moment happened that way tonight. And in that sense, the audience got to see a performance that no other audience will ever get to see again. And the actor got to experience that performance that no other actor has ever experienced. Even me last night doing the same thing, because it's not ever able to be recreated. It's unique in and of itself, and it's ephemeral in and of itself. And that, combined with the fact that we are in proximity and there is a sense of community and a sense of sort of, if you look at human history, our search for community and group has been forever, right? We've formed ourselves into all sorts of groups and subgroups, from cities to religions to, it's all a search for community and belonging and meaning. And theater is all of those things. And TV and film are not, because that actor isn't here. The beautiful thing about TV and film is that it's there forever, and I can go back to it whenever I want and find different things in it that I may have missed. But in theater, the beauty of it is it's here and it's gone. It's here and it's gone. And all I have is the memory of that experience, but I'm sharing that with everybody else who's in the room, including the actor. And that's, to me, what makes it special and why I don't think theater is ever going to go away. So what is my process in bringing a story alive for a production? Well, I was taught by a teacher, Milton Katselis, who quoted someone else, which is a combination of Tennessee Williams and Elia Kazan. The writer is a genius until proven otherwise, right? So we have to start with the writer, because the writer created the universe, right? So, if you're doing Game of Thrones, What's the place you start? Well, I'll start with George R.R. Martin because George R.R. Martin is the person who created the universe. If I'm going to do a production of Wuthering Heights, I'm going to start with the Bronte, right? Because that's where we go. So like the first thing to do, the first process is you've got to read the script. You got to read the piece with what I like to think of as a quiet mind, and that's difficult to do for someone who's an actor or a director, because what you immediately want to do is you immediately want to start making choices. Like you start, I can do this. This is my part, and this reminds me of this, and I'm going to do this. Don't do any of that. Sit there and read it like you would read a novel for the first time, like a civilian would read something, because what you want to do is you want to let it wash over you. You want to have the responses that you would naturally have without judgment or without building something on top of it before you see how it ends. You have to let the writer take you for the walk that the writer wanted you to go on with this piece. Then at the end of it, you go, well, what did that do to me? What were my responses to that? Then I make note of those things. These are my responses. Then we read it again. Then we start to get specific. The next step as a director is, well, whose voice do I hear this in? I cast things in my mind. I read something a second time and it starts to be theatrical in my head. I start to hear voices and I go, well, whose voice is that? And whoever's voice that is the actor that I want. So once we do that, we start casting it. We cast actors that we trust, obviously. Then I think in terms of bringing a story to life and choices, I think it's better as a director to let the actors show you what is it that they want to do? Where is it that they want to go? Because what ends up happening, I think, as a director, if you try to put a performance on an actor, is you'll end up with square pegs and round holes. I don't think that that's the way to go about it. I think that a director needs to be a listener first. I think you need to be a listener first, because the actor is going to show you. The actor is the one who's doing the role. So if you cast the actor in the role, that means that you trust that actor to understand that role better than you do pretty early on in the process, right? And if this is the actor that I have, and I decided that this is what this character looks like, this is who this character is, well, I need to take that character off of who the actor is. As a teacher, I tell my students, the character is not you, because that would be something that we would get institutionalized for if we actually were somebody else. That's not possible, right? You're always going to be you. So it doesn't have to be you, but the character is made of you. All different aspects of you. Everything in you is possible to put in the character. There's no, the character wouldn't do that until we choose not to. So I think as a director, you're a fool if you don't take it off the actor. I think you're nuts. Because if you're putting some performance on this actor that this actor doesn't necessarily have personalized and come from them, why'd you cast that actor? Why didn't you get somebody else? So that's where you start, in my opinion. You got to start with the actor you cast. The question being, when did I hear about All in the Timing by David Ives, and what is the impetus that said that I needed to do this now? I was in a production of All of the Timing as an actor when I was in college in 1994 or 5. I don't remember, at Florida State University. I got to do it with some really, really great actors. It was a student production directed by a gentleman named Saxon Palmer, who is in New York now. He's in the New York theater scene. We had some really, really great people in it. Montego Glover, who's been on Broadway, she was a part of the production. There were several people who were founding members of the Dad's Garage Theater Company in Atlanta, who were in that production. Rebecca Tracy, Sam Mott. It's a lot of people who were very dear to me and have been very dear to me in my life. We all came together and had that and did the production. We did 6 of the shows, and we had a ball. We had an absolute blast doing it. And it was something that I always had fond memories of, but, I just had left it, for what it is. You do a production. It's like, yeah, I don't need to come back to that. I'm done with it. Right. So then Talon Warburton is a student of mine. And it turned out that he and his dad, Patrick, were looking for something to do. They wanted to do a show together. And Talon and I have known each other for a few years. And, Talon's a great student. He's a good friend. And, he said, do you want to direct something, with me and my dad? I said, sure. What do you want to do? He said, I don't know. Let's come up with some plays. So me being me, I go off and I'm like, we'll do Bengal Tiger at the Baghdad Zoo. We'll do a Carol Churchill play about clones called Numbers. We'll do, because I'm into what I was into at that time. And I'm taking it to Patrick, who's producing the play, and Patrick reads it, and he goes, "Yeah, I don't want to do that, man. It's dark. It's just too dark. I don't want to do something dark." Because I think people need to have a good time. We need to have fun. And every time people say that, I think to myself, well, what was fun for me? Then I thought of a scene that was done in my class at Beverly Hills Playhouse by a couple of students of mine, Meadow Clare, Taylor Behrens. They did a scene from Sure Thing, which is one of the pieces from All in the Timing. And I said to myself, this is really fantastic. I had completely forgotten about this play. It re-entered the world for me, but through the scene that they did. So I thought about that. And I said, well, what about we do All in Timing? It was a great play. So we got a group of actors together on Zoom to read it. Talon loved it. Patrick loved it. I remembered, oh, yeah, I love this again, too. And then we just cast it. We cast it out of the studio. We've got some great actors. It's really fun. Some students that I've had for years. We have some really, really great people involved in this. And why did I need to do it right now? Because I think the world needs a laugh. I really, really, really think we just need a good time right now. Now, is that all in the timing is? No, it's not. There is a lot of weight to this. There's a lot of philosophy to this show. There's a lot of I'm going to leave you thinking at one point. But before we get there, you're going to have a ball. I want you. What we wanted to do was invite people to spend an hour and a half with us and forget about the troubles for a minute, because that's tough to do right now. So why this play right now? Because the world needs to take a breath. So why is Ives a unique writer? Wow. Okay. Ives is, well, okay. The first thing that stands out to you or to me about David Ives is his love of language and his dexterity with language. This is a person who I think David Ives is a guy who, if he hadn't become a playwright, he could have followed the same route that J.R.R. Tolkien did and been a linguist. Tolkien created how many languages in Lord of the Rings? Ives is that good with language in terms of not only knowing what specific word to use for what, but how to make rhythms. Language is music and harmony and rhythm and all sorts of things. He's a master of that. So it's very easy to act in the same way that Shakespeare is, in that sense, because it not only has a meaning in terms of the words that you're saying, but the rhythm and the harmonics and the everything about it, the music of the language adds to what you're doing, makes it easy to work with and easy to act. That's the first thing you notice about Ives. And what I like also about Ives' writing is he has such a specific view of relationships and such a specific view and an interesting take on the intricacies of the human condition. I know that sounds like a crazy answer, but so one of these pieces is the Sure Thing, which a lot of people know. This is the one that they know from All in the Timing, right? To me, Sure Thing is about just how fragile a relationship is. Like, in Sure Thing, you get to go back and do it again, do it again, and do it again, and do it again, and do it again, until you walk the path and you end up at a relationship okay, well, I'm going to be with this person now. This person is going to be somebody significant in my life. That play explores just how fragile that is. And if you miss a moment, if your timing's off by just this much, that person's just going to be a stranger to you for the rest of your life. What do you miss? You know, then there is, there are other explorations of different parts of the human condition in this piece that are really, really interesting, in the sense that he takes the everyday and he elevates it into something that has tremendous amount of universal meaning. And that's not something that you find in a playwright every day, not something you find in a run-of-the-mill playwright. It's like Shakespeare, it's like Stoppard, it's like Durang, but at the same time, it's like Ionesco and Beckett, and it's elements of a lot of different playwrights and a lot of different things that when you put it together, it can lead to a really engrossing and sort of a gripping night in the theater. The uniqueness of this collection of All in the Timing, because it is 6 short plays, and then a little blurb about each piece. Okay. So All in the Timing as a collection of plays, sort of in my view, is it's very well designed in terms of like okay. At first glance, it seems a bit disjointed. It's like, what does Sure Thing have to do with Variations on the Death of Trotsky, which is first to last, right? And how do we get there? What, like, okay, so Sure Thing is basically two people. It's a meet cute. Sure Thing is a romantic comedy, but if you kept getting something wrong and then making the wrong move or saying the wrong thing, and it ends, right? But you get to go through and keep going back and going back and going back and going back and getting the exact right thing for these two people in Sure Thing, which ends up having them be together. Then we've taken another piece from another collection of Ives called Mere Mortals, which is 3 construction workers, basically, without giving too much away, 3 construction workers sitting on the girders of a skyscraper, discussing who they really are. It's got elements of Saturday Night Live, and it's got elements of Waiting for Godot. It's a pretty out there play. I like it. That leads us into something called Words, 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 which all I'll say about the tagline for Words, Words, Words is, if you've ever heard the concept that 3 apes typing into infinity will eventually produce Hamlet, that's Words, Words, Words. Then we go into the universal language, which I will warn those who are watching is a play that is not in English for the most part, but it is a fascinating piece that deals with not only language and harmony and music, but also relationships. Then we go from that to the Philadelphia, which takes place in the city of New York physically, but metaphysically in Philadelphia. And then after that, what we end with is Variations on the Death of Trotsky, to which I will say I owe a debt of gratitude to the Marvel series WandaVision for the concept for the Variations on the Death of Leon Trotsky. So seemingly 6 or 7 one-acts. There is another one that we chose not to use because we don't have the wherewithal to do a musical. It's called Philip Glass Buys a Loaf of Bread, which is a part of All in the Timing, but we are not doing that in this production. Seemingly, these things are very disjointed, but if you look at them from a bird's eye view, they've all got something similar to say. They're all about how fragile relationships are in the modern world, and how important relationships are in the modern world, and how difficult communication is in the modern world, and how are we supposed to go through, and what does it all mean, and why are we here, and so to that end, there are elements that we've put throughout the 6 pieces that unite them, and audience will recognize those as we go along. without giving too much away, you guys got to come. So the main theme to me that connects all of these stories, this is going to be a very esoteric answer. To me, it's like living in a Rene Magritte painting. There's a beauty and a vibrancy and a color and a brilliance to surreal, but it's surreal. So one of the characters in one of the pieces, to me, this sort of encompasses the whole thing. One of the characters in one of the pieces says, "I am in love with you," and the response to that is, "Really?" And then she responds, she goes, "So really?" That to me is the main thing of all of the timing. It's an absurdist, existentialist view on everyday life, which I find to be really fun and funny. Now we can talk about some of the actors and the crew members that are involved with bringing this to life. So as we said before, this is being brought to us courtesy of Patrick Warburton. For those of you guys who have ever watched TV over the last 30 years, you know Patrick Warburton, probably know who Patrick Warburton is. He's best known for being in Seinfeld. He was the Tick. He's one of the most successful voiceover actors ever. He's Family Guy. You ever been to Disneyland and rode Soarin' across the world? That's Patrick Warburton, who welcomes you on the flight. You know, this is somebody who I am very, very fortunate to work with. He's a great guy. And I am his son. Talon is my student and has been my student for some time. And the concept for doing this originally was for them to do something together. They wanted to act together. And I'm fortunate enough to be here to help them do that. I have some help from my wife, Tanya Gonzalez, who is a fantastic actor in her own right. She is in one of the previous videos on this channel talking about All in the Timing. She is my wife and love of my life and my muse. Everything I do in art and theater is basically done to impress her. But hey, that's okay. Then the rest of the company is a pretty diverse group of people. They're friends and students of mine. Meadow Claire is a partnered Twitch streamer. If you like ASMR, you can go check her out. Her stream is fantastic. We have Bill Butts, who is big presence in the anime world and the video game world. He's on things like Genshin Impact, One Piece, many different anime projects. We have Mark Hahn, who was a voice teacher and a musical theater artist. He's been an athlete. He's been a lot of different things in his life, and he's barely 30 years old. We have Maram Kamal, who is a fantastically talented actor. She is a writer. She's a director. She's written a wonderful short film that I'm going to be directing after I'm done with this. We've got Taylor Behrens, who's a brilliant stand-up comic, who we're lucky enough to have be in Sure Thing. We've got Melody Shea, who is multi-talented actor, singer, songwriter, dancer. So that is a little bit of a sampling of who we have involved in this. And what I like most about this really is part of my career concept for myself as a director is, I think every career sort of has a concept. My career concept is I just want to make cool plays with my friends, and I'm getting to do that here. So pretty much I'm enjoying myself because it's like, this is right on brand for me. It's what I want to do. What do I want the audience to get out of the entirety of the production? Mostly, I want them to get a good time out of it. Beyond that, I would like them to take a look. I would like them to take a look at not wasting any time. Don't waste any time. Don't waste any moments. Don't make any interactions trivial or meaningless. because a lot of things that we go gloss over and a lot of things that we think are trite or unimportant are actually very important. And they're more important than a lot of the stuff we think is important. So don't there's a line in Trotsky that talks Trotsky. They keep talking about Trotsky going and looking at the nasturtiums. Take a minute, go look at the nasturtiums. It's important. What am I looking for in terms of directing the 6 plays live at the Zephyr Theatre? I'm going to give this answer from an artistic standpoint, because if we give it from a commercial standpoint, then that just sets us up for disappointment, because that's not controllable. So all that I'm looking for is, I'm going to answer this from an artistic standpoint. I'm looking for the actors that we have to tell us the truth and show us the truth of what that is. That's basically what I'm looking for. I'm looking for truth. I'm looking for people in a place having an experience, not really actors on a stage doing a play. Because if we're people in a place having an experience, then the rest of the people that are with us, the rest of the audience, they're going to have an experience too. Whatever it is, I don't know. That's based on what they bring into the theater with them. But what I want them to do is to have an experience that is either a diversion from something that they need a diversion from, or something that helps them to solve some sort of a problem that they have. Because that's the purpose of doing theater, isn't it? Why should people come to see All in the Timing at the Zephyr Theatre? Because we're going to give you a challenge, but we're also going to give you a good time. And in my opinion, there's not enough of either one in the world right now. Why small theater is important and why small theater productions are important is kind of it's not the same answer, but it's very close. It's very closely related. Small theater, in my opinion, is where the most inspired and creative art happens, that is done in the world of acting. Just because there's not the pressure of having the millions of dollars on the line if you do fall flat on your face. You know what I'm saying? If we fall flat on our face, yeah, it's going to suck. We're not going to want to do that. But nobody at corporate is going to get fired. You know, I'll have a bad time. I'll feel like, oh, well, I tried that and failed. But it's not like, if this were a Hollywood production, like if this were a film, right, a big budget film, and I had this concept that I wanted to try, I don't think I could do that, because I have to get through 47 layers of executives who each have their own risk aversions to be like, oh, no, we have to do something that's right down the line, and we have to do something that's palatable. Small theater is not answerable to lowest common denominator. And that's why it's important. It's important because you can take a risk. It's important because if I feel like painting somebody with 2 eyes on the same side of their face, I can do that in small theater because I don't have to worry about selling the canvas. You know what I mean? It's about art, not about commerce, which is what's fantastic. So why are small theater productions important? They're important because they sort of, in my opinion, they have the opportunity to set the trail, to blaze trails in art that aren't able to be blazed any other places. Why are small theaters like the Zephyr important? Because they allow small theater productions to do just that. We can do things at the Zephyr and at the Skylight and at the the Odyssey and at the Court and at the Beverly Hills Playhouse and at so many of the Road and the Open Fist. These are the companies that do work that changes people's artistic life. Those companies, when those companies are healthy, the bigger houses are healthy, in my opinion, because this is where the artists are germinated that go to the bigger houses and make that art. So why is it important to protect those theaters? Those theaters, if you look at New York, those theaters changed theater. The Fantastics didn't start in the Schubert. The Fantastics didn't end in the Schubert either. The Fantastics was in a little shoebox off Broadway, much like the Zephyr, to be honest. So yeah, that's what's possible. You can change musical theater entirely in a little theater. Is there anything else that we need to talk about the play production? The only thing that I will say is I'm super proud of all of the actors that have gotten involved with this and have given so much passion and so much energy and so much love to a project that is merely a labor of love. And I continue to be impressed and admire the dedication and creativity that they've given to this labor of love. And for that, I deeply, deeply, deeply appreciate that. MY Acting Studios, short for Michael Yavnieli Acting Studios, was created basically, okay, in 2020, September of 2020. Don't know if you guys have heard about this, but there was a global pandemic going on at the time. Weird, I know. Yeah, right. Wow. We couldn't go back into a theater. The law said we couldn't do it. But there was, I thought, a need or a want for an outlet, a creative outlet for actors that I knew, and for me, honestly, I was like, I need to get back into this. We need to start talking about acting. We need to create, we need to do art. We need to do these things again. So what did we do? I got a Zoom account. I set up a Zoom meeting and said, hey, we're going to have a class. And I would sit on my balcony in downtown LA from 6 p.m. to 9:30 with my little AirPods in, and we would do scene study. That's what we were doing. And people liked it. They kept coming back. So we ended up doing scene study class virtually for several months. We did 4 or 5 sessions with 20 to 25 actors, just a dedicated group of people. It's like, okay, well, let's get together and let's do some scenes. Let's do some scene work. What do we do? Well, we can't get up on our feet and do, the traditional, like, I can't do the balcony scene with a set, right? But what I can do is I can take the balcony scene with Romeo and Juliet, and what we started doing was like, let's break down and deconstruct how we make choices so that when we get into rooms again, we have a process and a technique. So we really refined the beginning stages of that acting technique that I had aggregated from too many years of study of many different techniques, mostly from Milton Casellas. And then in September 2021, we had the opportunity to go back live and be at the Lounge on Melrose. We have classes once a week, Thursdays 6 to 9:30. But they're a hybrid. So we still have the streaming element. So we do have some students that stream in from other places. We have a student in Illinois. We have a student in Denver right now. We've had students in New York in the past. I've had someone streaming from London and from Monaco at one point. So it's about like just the line on the website that I came up with is it's classic scene study for the modern actor. So deconstructing all the elements that I found over the course of my study of Strasberg and Adler and Aude Hagen and Sandy Meisner and, been studying acting one way or another since I was 12 years old. Take that and how do we apply it to the modern world while doing a hybrid with working members that are all over the world as well. And that's how MY Acting Studios came to be. And that's kind of why I started it. What type of classes we offer at the studio? Our bread and butter is scene study, but it's not just a scene study focused class. What I'm going to do is we're going right now. I'm on a kick of going back to fundamentals and talking about process. So we mix in some exercises, some versions of exercises that have been developed by master teachers over the last 150 years of acting technique from Stanislavski all the way through, to now. Which basically it's sprinkled in scene study with these exercises. We do audition classes about once every 6 to 8 weeks. We'll have an audition class focused on, bringing cold readings or self-tapes or both, a hybrid of both. because more and more auditions have stayed online. So people kind of have to know how to do both. We have offered a commercial workshop in the past. We've done a couple of those, going to do another one of those. I've got working on doing voiceover technique class. My concept basically for this would be to make it sort of a conservatory style program. I want it to be sort of a one-stop shop for an actor, so where if you want voiceover training, you can have it. If you want musical theater training, you can have it. You want vocal training, you can have it. That's what we're in the process of trying to do. Now, in terms of what level of actors that, would benefit from the class, I have had actors come in at all stages of a career. I've had actors that have come in with 30 years experience and extensive resumes. I have had actors that have come in at over age 50 that wanted a new career, that have had a successful career in business and now I want to try my hand at acting. So basically, what I feel like I can do for you as a teacher is the technique is the technique. That doesn't change, but that can be applied at any point of a career. It can be applied to any point you're at a career, whether you're just starting out and going, what is this? What are my hands? How do I use them? Or you are at a point where you're like doing nuanced and detailed character work so that you can make complete physical transformations. There is a part of the technique that serves us no matter where we are. What are my favorite skills that I like to teach actors? Well, dialects are always fun. I like to teach dialects, and I like to teach detailed character work. I love the idea that an accent and a pair of shoes, there's a character in an accent and a pair of shoes. An entire person can be from an accent and a pair of shoes. Because it changes not only the way you walk, but it changes the way that you go through the world. And I don't think you're doing a dialect unless you have a whole character behind it. That being said, the most important thing I think that I do for an actor as a teacher is I like to say to my actors that we're not learning how to act, we're learning how to think like an actor. You're learning how to analyze things like an actor. You're learning how to watch and absorb things like an actor. You're learning how to strategically make choices that are not, it's not necessarily what is the hottest choice. It's what is the best choice for this moment right now for me. It's a whole, it's a multifaceted thought process that needs careful consideration. I always tell people acting is very simple. It's also very hard to do. And what I constantly try to help actors with is the thought process that leads to the streamlining and the simplicity of, I make this choice in this moment. I do all this. Basically, it's like you do all this work, right? You do your preparation, you do your character, what is my physical state? What's the event? What's the story? What I'm trying to tell? How much do I care about it? What's my physical state? Am I drunk? Am I tired? Am I hot? Am I this? What's my moment before and my backstory and my relationship with this, that, my point of view, blah, 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 blah. You do all that work, right? All that work happens before the scene. Now, how do you put that in your back pocket, show up, forget all about it, and just be in the moment and respond and talk to you and take a ride? How do you do that? That's what I'm interested in. If there are actors who want to know how to direct, are my classes helpful? Short answer, yes. Longer answer is yes, because directing, especially directing in theater, is simply knowing how to listen to and talk to actors. That's all it is. Your job as a director in theater, above all else, in my opinion, is to tell a story, right? Now, how do we tell stories? Well, writers tell stories with written words on a page. Directors tell stories through performances, crafted performances from actors that we choose, right? So if I'm going to be a director in the theater or in film or in television, I better damn well know how to talk to an actor. I better have walked not a mile, but 10 miles in an actor's shoes. I better know the things to say to an actor who is having a problem with a moment. I better understand when to be quiet, when to offer help, when to offer a suggestion, when not to offer a suggestion. I have to know all of those things. And the best way to understand that is to understand the process that an actor goes through. Why do I need to teach actors? Why am I passionate about it? And why do I love it? I love actors. I love actors, and I love acting, and I love the art of it. And I consider it, okay. Milton Katselas, very influential teacher in my life, maybe the most influential teacher other than my family, had a checklist. There's an actor's checklist for takeoff. You can take a look at it. There's a book called Acting Class, Take a Seat that he wrote. It's available at the Beverly Hills Playhouse, like I said, where I spent a long time as a student. But I use it at MY Acting Studios, and we live by it. There's an actor checklist for takeoff, and it used to be 20 items long. The 20th item on the actor checklist is study with masters, become a master, pass it on. I feel that every artist and everybody who is a creative person in the world, you have an obligation to share your creativity. Your creativity is what you have to say, right? Your obligation as someone who is able to be creative is to say what you have to say. One of the ways to do that and make sure that that is said, and make sure that your viewpoint is heard, and make sure that the art that you love that has been good to you over the years is taken care of, is to pass that along. It's the most important way, because we have a tendency now in the world to think that nothing old is worth anything. And I disagree. I think that old destructive patterns of thought, yes, do need to be swept away. They absolutely do. There are human defaults that we go back to that should be changed because we have to evolve. That's just the way that it is. But to throw everything from the past away is to condemn yourself to repeat mistakes. And when I was a young actor, I made a lot of mistakes, man. I did a lot of things that I wish I hadn't done. I have a lot of regrets. I have a lot. It's not a. It can be a mentally taxing profession. What I want to be for a young actor as a teacher is someone who understands that, and someone who can offer my own experience, not only as this is a way to do it, but as a, this is something you should not do. This is something that you don't need to do. This is something to watch out for and be careful of, and don't do this and watch where you step here. You know what I mean? I had that experience. And if you come into my sphere as a student, I don't want you to have that experience. I want you to have an easier road than I did. So why would I keep that to myself? So why should Southern California actors attend the MY Acting Studios classes? In my opinion, you can get something out of every acting class that you go to. There is almost no such thing as a bad teacher. Okay. Every teacher practically has got something to offer. There's something to offer. The reason to come to MY Acting Studios and to study with me is I have a unique set of experiences and a unique viewpoint to offer to people. I have my own aesthetic, just like you have your own aesthetic, just like you have your own experiences. The reason to come study at MY Acting Studios is because for a time, I think I can offer you something that enriches your point of view. I think I can offer you something that enriches and deepens your experiences. I think I can offer you someone to listen. I think I can offer you someone to suggest some new things. I think I can offer you support. I think I can offer you a challenge. And the most important thing that I think I can offer to a Southern California actor, we have a community at MY Acting Studios. We take care of each other. There's an old concept that I learned. One of the first things I learned when I studied with a teacher named Gloria Gifford when I was a very young actor. She would talk about the concept of support. The root word of the word support is a Latin word portare, that means to carry. So the feeling that you have after you come to an acting class should be that you just got carried down Melrose Avenue in a sedan chair. That's what we do. My job as a teacher is not to break you down. My job as a teacher, I'm doing you a disservice if that's what I do. You as an actor have strengths. Everybody does. And nowhere is it written that your strengths are invalid or that your strengths are not what you need to make it in this business. That's nonsense. My job is to build strength where strength exists and augment and add as a teacher. And that's what I do. 80% of my job as a teacher is telling actors, yeah, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. You got it. You can do it. You can do it. You come to me with a goal, we're going to figure out how to do it. That's what we do. What is my hope for the future of MY Acting Studios? Well, what I hope that we become in the future is a place where people can go work out their actor muscles with a theater company attached. That's what I want to do. I want to do, like I said, my concept is I want to do cool plays with my friends. That's what I want to do. I want to make this the first of many productions that MY Acting Studios does. I want your membership in MY Acting Studios to come with the fact of, oh, I'm going to be in some plays. I'm going to get to do some art. I'm going to get to make some things happen for myself. I'm going to get to dictate the way that the industry sees me. Because that's why to do a play from a commercial standpoint is I'm going to show you how I go. I go like this. From a commercial standpoint. From an artistic standpoint, you do a play for play's sake, obviously. You do a play for the sake, for the love of it. And you study acting for the love of it. So I want to make it, like I said, a one-stop shop, a conservatory, a modern day actor studio, if you will. That's what I hope. Thank you to Tanya Gonzalez, my wife, for meeting you and doing this first. And thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. We're at www.myactingstudios.com. That's myactingstudios with an S.com. Classes are going on through Thanksgiving. We take off in December. We take off in July. But other than that, we have scene study classes ongoing with commercial workshops and other things upcoming. Come check us out. It's free to audit. We can do online too. If you're not in Southern California, we can do that too. You're around. Not only are you zooming in and observing, you work as well. So would love to see you. And I thank you very much for your time. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I'm Michael Yavnieli. I am the producer and director of Western Warburton's production of All in the Timing, 6 one-act plays plus Mere Mortals at the Zephyr Theatre on Melrose Avenue. We open on October 14th, run through November 20th. We have 3 shows a weekend. You get tickets at onstage411/AITT, and we'll see you at the theater. Should be a good time.